Like those are not
Pretty much she's gonna
the
kill
opposite
him.
idea.
Pretty much she's gonna kill him regardless if we're.
But wait,
taking
that brings up an interesting question, actually. Can the Shinjuu devour a dead target? Does that work equally as well as a living target? We know for Ten-Tail sacrifices that is not the case. They need to be a living Atsuki. So if she kills him, does that just ruin his sacrifice devourness ability?
Well, let's look at it based off of plants. How do plants get their nutrients?
Well, it depends on the plant. Because right now, this is like a Venus flytrap.
Because you got to remember, the Ten-Tails is a seedling. It's considered a seedling, and it grows into a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, the trees normally, like, they're like absorbing nutrients from the soil via their roots and stuff, but they're not They're not doing dead or alive whatever anyway. Like, they're just absorbing nutrients from the soil, with the exceptions being some things like a Venus flytrap, where technically, yes, like an animal kind of gets decomposed in there or whatever nonsense. But in terms of normal trees, which the divine tree and Ten-Tails are doing living people stuff. So it's just already kind of.
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Well, we do know because they state the Ten-Tail sacrifice the Otsuki sacrifice needs to be living.
Okay. The Ten-Tails, yes. I was thinking about the divine tree and how if it's sucking up all the genetic information from the planet, that I don't think it's just limited to just alive people sucking up all this.
I think that's cap anyway, because like when the divine tree is doing it in the war arc, it throws away the dead people. It doesn't absorb the dead people into itself. It's not absorbing the dead Edo Tensei.
I'm going at this based off what Amato was saying about how the divine trees are working. If Amato is contradicting the lore, then I don't know.
say the line, Kamui. It's this conversation again. Say the line.
Which one?
Boruto's bad.
Oh,
well, I conversation.
Ikimoto forgot.
Or maybe if you're looking at this, or maybe you saw this from the anime, right? You saw what the divine tree was doing from the anime, correct? Or is it? Or was this also present in the manga? Too.
I'm assuming so.
I'll look back into the manga. Yeah, I'll look back into the manga, see what's going on. But
I was also
I mean, regardless, it's not going after Edo Tensei, who are dead bodies, even though they have chakra. Like, the only thing you could say that would make somewhat sense is Edo Tensei are dead. The divine tree only goes after living things, hence avoiding Edo Tensei. Same with Infinite Tsukiyomi. Which means it wouldn't absorb dead things.
But Kamui, this gets back into the question that we had of when does the Edo Tensei person inside die? When the Edo Tensei starts or when it finishes?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And does their chakra go back to the Pure Lands, or does it remain on Earth?
What happens to their?
Well, I think it's both. I think their physical energy stays or spiritual energy goes.
Chakra amping up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's like half and half.
It's like those are just interesting questions I just thought of. Like I was like, okay, if Edo Tensei works by like bringing the I would say the spirit of the host from the Pure Lands into a vessel for them to, reincarnate back into the physical world, except they're not really at their original power anymore, then I was just thinking to myself, maybe it could go back to the Pure Lands. The chakra could end up going back to the Pure Lands because, they can't really remain on Earth for too long. That's depending on, if you want to look, if that's how you want to look at it towards the end of the war.
I have another question for you. This one's hilarious to think about. Do you think, assuming Matsuri wanted to do so, do you think she could, hypothetically, turn someone into a white Zetsu?
What was
the problem is we don't know, because it depends on whether being in that genjutsu technically matters for the obviously who's making it sound like it does, but the alternative, all you need is the divine deforced emergence. That is just the divine tree, even though it's controlled by Mana, but because they are divine trees, in theory, they could probably control it the same way if they knew to do it. But then that comes back to the question of, okay, so is the Infinite Tsukiyomi necessary or not? And you would have to assume yes, because otherwise, well, why the fuck does Zetsu care if you do it? Like, just do divine force emergence. Just write that as the thing that causes the dreams. Why even mention Infinite Tsukiyomi? Why is Kagi even doing it? So I feel like the answer is no, but it's possible it's a yes.
Okay.
My roundabout answer.
So going back to the sacrifice thing, first of all, I will say it takes the living sacrifice of an Otsutsuki. Clearly, this is a target who's human, not Otsutsuki in the first place, so I feel like that just inherently isn't a requirement in the first place.
Yeah, I know, and they're also, like, quote-unquote, not 10 tails. They're divine trees, even though they're 10 tails.
That as well, yeah.
It's, so, you think the Shinjus in this case are kind of like some weird hybrids of 10 tails? But
well, like, personally think so, because even though Jura says they are divine trees, they also call themselves 10 tails at times. Boruto says they've started evolving into divine trees. Jura says they're going to evolve into their final form, known as the divine tree. So I think they're in this in-between stage, and Ikimoto can't decide what to call them. He's going to call them divine trees most of the time, but they're not divine trees. They're humanoid 10 tails that have started becoming divine trees at the same time. Like, they're in this in-between state.
Because, that's interesting.
I mean, they look more like, look at Mamushi.
Yeah.
He looks a lot more like a claw grime than he does a tree. Duh.
Pretty much all of them do.
Exactly. Like, that even almost makes me think they're more 10 tails than divine tree. But Boruto, everyone's got to emphasize how they're such divine tree like that they got to have started process. So, but it would have been better if they just weren't, bro. It'd be better if they just were freaking 10 tails. But at the same time, I'm just gonna stop because we're gonna have to rewrite the whole story if you keep going this route.
we could do a rewrite. We can just do a rewrite later.
So last thing I want to say on this.
All right, okay.
Last thing I want to say on this is, to be fair, Kamui, what I said previously about it being a target instead of Otsutsuki, and what you're saying now about it being technically 10 tails, not the divine tree, all that. And to be fair, Jura does call them like a rare exception, not rare, but like an exception. Like, I think during its introduction anyways, so. But even besides all that, because all that's like surface layer, it's just you got to dig deeper to the cultural philosophy.
Okay, Jonathan Oliver.
Okay, so if realistically, I'm just gonna present the information and just ask you what you think about it afterwards. So they're a 10 tails what? Sacrifice. They're 10 tails what? Fodder. Obviously, they have to be living beforehand, but the 10 tails devours them, eating them to what? To death. So, like, at what point does the living dead thing even matter? Because they're dead, which is because they're devoured by the 10 tails, so they die.
I
mean, at what point does it
like
work?
I said, I don't know that it matters.
Are you talking about how
I'm just saying. I was gonna say, like, I mean, yes, I agree with everything you're gonna say. Moving forward too, it's just kind of like they're emphasizing the living necessity of all these things. And Jura's going out of his way to not kill Himawari, but instead devour her in the one time he was trying to do it and stuff. It seems like they want to do it when they're alive. Like, he didn't just stab Himawari like he did Inojin before devouring her. He's doing it while she's alive. Gives me the impression that they need to be alive, but I'm not saying that definitively. It's putting that into that, like, 70-30 kind of thing.
So what I would assume is that it's a thing of, like, they need the body to be intact. And so if you kill it, obviously it's going to shut down the body, deoxygenation or whatever. It's going to start rotting like a soul thorn, deterioration. Assuming decomposition even exists in Naruto, I somewhat low-key theorize that isn't possible in Naruto. I don't think decomposers exist.
Exactly. Like, because, like, they're freaking pulling out, like, Kabuto's pulling out ancient ass graves, and you know what? All we see is just old looking people, not their skeletons.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think decomposers exist in Naruto, but that's a theory for another time. So,
You think?
but what I do think